Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you how to sell cybersecurity services. More importantly, actually, I'm going to show you what I'm doing with my clients, real world examples to show you how you can sell your cybersecurity services, where to start with this. And we're going to be using what I take this name from a peer, actually, a guy called Paul Lloyd in the space. He has called this term the Trojan horse. But you're actually going with something else, not the main service that you're trying to sell. I'm going to show you exactly how this works in this video. So let me bring up my slides and we'll go into what we're going to cover here. Okay. The first one is like how I help my clients get in front of more businesses every single month. This is going to be for you guys because this is practical. It's real world examples that I'm going to show you here on how I'm doing it and how I'm helping these businesses. Second thing, what's a hot topic that relates to your services? We don't want to be boring everyone to death, all these prospects in the local marketplace, with potentially things about cybersecurity that they're not interested in. And I've got some hard facts here about cybersecurity services that you're going to love. So we'll cover that in the second point. And then the third thing is what you actually sell. So you sit down in front of a prospect. What are you actually going to sell them? We're going to be covering that in this video. That's where our Trojan horse comes in. So that's what we're going to cover. Let's get into the first thing. Number one here, how I get my clients in front of more businesses. Now, I've been doing MSP marketing, managed IT service providers. I've been doing that for 8 years. Okay. I've tried everything under the sun. I've tried search engine optimization. I've tried video marketing. I've tried content marketing, account-based marketing, cold emails, you name it. I've tried them all. And to an extent, all of these do work. Okay. Some of them work really well at certain points in history. Give you a personal example of this. When I first started my business, IT Rockstars, I was going live on Facebook and LinkedIn every single day with a video. Okay. I wrote a book about this, video marketing for MSPs. And I grew my business. I had new customers every single day just because hardly anyone else was doing video. Fast forward to where we are now, guess what? Everyone's doing video. It doesn't work anymore. Okay. So what is working? How can you get in front of local businesses quickly? Not a lot of spend. You don't have to go and knock on doors or pick up phones or blast tons of emails to people. How do you do that? Question for you. How have you got your existing clients today? Nine out of 10 IT businesses, MSPs that I speak with is usually through referrals, word of mouth, and relationships. People they already know. You don't need more leads to try and get in front of more businesses. You need more relationships. Okay. But the big question is, how do you actually scale the relationship making process to kind of get in front of those businesses in the first place? Learn doing this for 8 years or however long it's been is that webinars and in-person events the best way to start a relationship with your local marketplace. I like webinars because I can literally click a couple buttons, turn up for 20, 30 minutes every single month, and I can be in front of 50 business owners in front of my screen, and I can pitch my services. Okay. I love webinars. There's a big problem though, a really big problem with webinars is that if you run these, and you might already have, is that you'll potentially fail to get them to convert. Like I've had so many failures in webinars. The first big problem is the registration, getting people to actually register. Second big problem, getting people to actually attend. Then the third big problem is like, what do you actually sell them in the webinar? The first one, I'm going to give you an example here. Let me bring it up on the screen. Let me bring up the screen. So this is a website called 99 Designs. This is where you can go to get ads for your webinar that you're going to run. And the client that I worked with back in a little while ago now, this was George. He wanted to do a cybersecurity webinar. We had a big problem with this webinar. We only had about 13 people register onto it, and we paid $44 for each person to register on. We use meta ads. They work really well. But we were paying $44, and I'm like, what's wrong? This client's going to leave. And guess what? They did leave. They weren't happy with the work. I had to learn this lesson, and this is a lesson that you can avoid. And I showed this. I had a peer that I was speaking to just a couple of weeks ago is going through exactly the same thing. They're running a webinar for their client all about cybersecurity, and they're not getting the traction. They paid something like $200 and they've only got one lead. Problem is, and I only learned this when I started working on other webinars, is I need to try and fix this. I need to figure out what the problem is. It's all about the topic. Okay. I cast my mind back to 2012. Like, that's a long time ago. I was running events about cybersecurity back then when I did sales for an MSP. I remember specifically going to an event in Aberdeen, where I am in Scotland, and the police were there. And we were talking about cybersecurity. This is going back like 15 plus years ago. We're basically selling all rope. The topic of cybersecurity has been done to death. And I didn't understand this until I started doing all these other webinars and I had different topics. I started talking about hot topics that are hot in the marketplace, that are on the tip of business owners' tongues, and everyone's talking about them. Big one right now as I record this is AI webinars. What I was doing there, I was getting $5 to $10 per lead. Okay. A quarter of the cost of these cybersecurity webinars. So the first lesson here is that if you're going to pull off something like webinars to get in front of your prospect, you need to make sure you've got a topic that people actually want to show and appear for. They want to actually register onto and they're going to attend. If you have a boring topic, which cybersecurity, it might not seem boring to you, but it's boring to your marketplace, it's not going to work. So the solution here is to wrap your cybersecurity service that you're wanting to sell in a hot topic. The packaging has to be something else. It's that old saying, show them what they want, but give them what they need. I think that's the saying. But you need to package your webinar or your event in a hot topic, and then it leads to the cybersecurity. There's a natural transition to compliance or cybersecurity. Okay, so we've jumped the gun here. Okay, so I'm showing you an example now of like how I help clients get in front of businesses running webinars, and we've jumped the gun on step 2 here, and what a hot topic that relates to your services. Okay, it must be hot. Now, step 3, what do we actually sell in the webinar? Now, the problem that we've got when it comes to cybersecurity services, managed IT services, and I give the girl at the bar analogy, is that you can't just be in a webinar or an event and say, hey, buy my IT services, sign me up for a 36-month contract for IT support and managed services. I really want that. The girl at the bar analogy is, you can't just walk up to the girl at the bar and ask her to marry you. It's just not going to happen. Okay. There are other questions that might work for other things, but that's not going to happen. Okay. This is the analogy. So how do we get around this problem? Here comes the Trojan horse. Here's the piece of the puzzle that you might have been missing from your sales and marketing pipe. The Trojan horse is a small piece of project work that leads to a natural conversation about their managed IT services or their cybersecurity. So in the webinar, I actually don't suggest you sell anything. The best webinars that I've had internally here at IT Rockstars, I just put a slide up on the screen to say, continue the conversation one-on-one with me, and it's got a QR code to my Calendly. That's all I have. Continuing the conversation. The point of that continued conversation is really, we're going back to the relationships. The first piece in this puzzle is building that relationship. But more importantly, for the sales process, this is the discovery. This is where you get to identify what the pain points are in the business. Now, they might not be cybersecurity related, okay? They might not have anything to do with your managed IT services, but there's probably a technology solution out there for a small piece of project work that's going to help that client. So your job in this conversation is to build the relationship, but it's also to discover what their pain points are, what's keeping them up at night, and how you can help them with that. Okay. This is almost like the qualification at this stage. Now, you might get lucky. Okay. We've all been lucky at the bar, maybe once or twice. Depends how much I've had to drink. That was a long time ago. And you might get that small piece of project work. What I would suggest you do when you get that project work is you overperform. That's something I've always had a problem with. But you overperform. And I'm going back to the girl at the bar analogy, if you haven't guessed. But you overperform in the project. You overdeliver. Okay. That's the first thing. What this does is it makes the client go, wow. Okay. But it also builds trust. And that trust is what can naturally lead to the conversation around their managed IT services under cybersecurity. It puts you in that position to be able to have that conversation. Just like at the girl at the bar, you're not going to be able to have that conversation about a 36-month contract on the first date, even. So, that one piece of project work is your Trojan horse, is your entry point. That's what you should be doing. So, this is exactly how I sell cybersecurity services, managed IT services. This is how I help my clients. The funnel is simple. The question really is if you want to take action on it. Getting in front of 20 to 30 local businesses every single month is easy when you know how. Okay. That's not the hard bit. The hard bit is figuring out the topic that's going to actually work with the marketplace and how it relates back to that conversation that you need to have, that discovery call. The hard bit. And then there's the discovery call itself. The questions or getting them to answer the questions and you controlling the conversation. I've been following a sales trainer because personally I'm terrible at sales. And going back to the discovery call, what I've understood with this is that you need to be 90% of the time when you're in these types of meetings is asking questions. And if they start asking you questions, you basically turn it right round on them and ask them why they want to know that question. You're trying to get to the truth. You're trying to uncover those pain points. That's what I've learned. And that's what started to work for me in my own sales process here at IT Rockstars. Anyway, hope you found this video useful, a little bit different. Freezing here in this room today, but the heater on. Actually, the next one.